call the September meeting of the City of Aiken Design Review Board to order now. And I'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting and ask our secretary, I guess our first order of business is approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read and review the minutes?
Yeah, I recommend that we accept the minutes as read.
Second.
Is there a second? Good, thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And that would be unanimous. And we have no old business. Mr. Secretary, please introduce the new business.
First item this is from the Bishop of Charleston, so the Catholic Church, the Mercy Hall, which is part of the school at 118 York Street Southeast. The applicant is requesting to cover in stucco a breeze block wall on the lower front facade of the structure you see here in the photo. The stucco color is a brown color. Now, if you've been by there, you've noticed that it has been stuccoed. This was under some discussion between staff and the administrative staff at the church. And it was not anticipated to move forward with this project, I believe, at this time, but the project was started, I don't want to say, but essentially kind of by accident, or at least prior to receiving approval. And so it's coming before you. The structure itself was built in the 50s, based on our kind of best records. It just looking at the construction, we're not certain that the breeze block wall was original to the building, but maybe added on at some point. It was some other sort of wall due to kind of the elements around it, and I believe their staff could probably better explain kind of what they had seen through that process than I can. But this is in the old Aiken Overlay District. It is not a historically registered property. Would normally be eligible for administrative review for this sort of action, but we felt this may be worthy just coming to the board because it's a feature possibly indicative of the era that it was created.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to represent the application? State your name, please, for the record.
Patrick Ray, W-R-A-Y. And I'm the administrator for St. Mary's and representing the Diocese of Charleston and St. Mary Help of Christians.
So yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we did get we finished the approval process to enclose the rest of the school with fencing, and we held off doing this part of the wall because we didn't have an agreement with the committee on exactly what color we would choose, and so we left that off of that particular application. And I would like to point out that behind that wall, and I measured it today, it's about 21 feet long, and behind where the breezeway was, that now the stucco is over it, there is a utility closet that from this corner here to the right has that existing brick that comes 12 feet. So the remaining 9 feet is actually breezeway. So that's why we were under the assumption it was added later. If I could walk over.
Sure.
Basically, this brick was coming all the way down here for about 12 feet. And then they put that, what we call the cheese wall, or the breezeway, all the way here. And then about 9 feet in was actual breezeway because there's a utility room. Does that make better sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. And unfortunately, It's been a strange year for everyone, and my father passed away, and I was out of state for a funeral and help settling his estate. And while I was gone, our contractor and volunteer staff assumed it got approved with the fence project, and they had it up in a day. And my other two chair people on my committee, they're in their 80s, and they both came down with cancer, so they weren't available to stop what happened. So I apologize, firstly, that it happened without permission.
Thank you for that, and we're certainly sorry for the difficulties, and
Yes, ma'am.
so, and that's probably the, I won't say the best excuse, but, you know, the excuse I've heard that I'm most sympathetic with.
And just to kind of, reiterate, we have been, and I probably should have mentioned that, is that we were kind of under some additional work that the school had been doing over the course of the last 6 months or so to, one, kind of improve the aesthetic, but also improve school security, like a lot of schools are kind of going through. So if you see that, they'll have a fence and gate system now along there that was constructed to kind of assist in those. And I think doing some of this is kind of in that same vein.
Yeah, we wanted to go after that and ask permission because it kind of became the new eyesore on that side since we put up the new brick pedestals with the black powdered aluminum fencing to enclose the rest of the school. And then we'll be approaching y'all again about updating a much more elegant signage to establish the property of what it is versus that, just the wording up top. We're going to be under design of actually putting something where that stucco is now.
So what was the purpose of the stucco wall?
It was, it looked totally out of place. Didn't quite fit in to a lot of our parishioners and the principal. They were wanting to change the look of it. That building and that whole downstairs part used to be half of it's cafeteria and the other side closest to this construction piece was a kitchen area to serve the children food, which no longer is used for that. It's been turned into meeting space, and they now have like area food service come in to provide lunches for the kids instead of serving their own food out of the cafeteria.
So, questions for Mr. Gray? Well, I kind of like the other wall, but, it's, I don't believe that this in any way is contrary to our guidelines.
Yeah, it looks a little blank right now, but I think they're going to the intent was to put a new sign on that stucco.
Right.
Yeah, I think that'll
There was
probably
talk
help.
about doing a school logo, a quite large one, but Father Wilson didn't like that idea. He's has very high taste for a priest, and he wants to put something much more elegant in its place for the sign.
How did you come up with the color?
The interior of the building and some of the other trim, if you could see like the stairwell and right up in this area here, it's kind of a grayish blue. The picture I sent electronically kind of came across brown, but if you walk up to it, it's a more of a gray color.
You ever know Monsignor Smith?
I,
Speaking of people with good taste.
yeah, we have 20 buildings here downtown, so a lot to keep up with.
Any other questions, comments for Mr. Gray? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here who would like to, you can have a seat, speak about this project? Okay, hearing none. It is back to the board for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the stucco wall as performed.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion. Are we ready to vote? All in favor? And it carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. Mr. Secretary, our next application, please.
The next application is located at 224 Greenville. This is on the east side of Greenville between Barnwell and Edgefield. So across the street is the Rose Hill Estate. And this is a small residence converted into office. The structure is listed as a contributing structure built in 1938, but the applicant has had issues with water infiltration from the roof, which is right now a grayish asphalt shingle, just a 3-tab shingle roof. He presented some evidence here of the leakage. He approached staff right around the time that we had the prior meeting, so we did not have time to get this notice in time for the prior meeting, and was wanting to do this under emergency repair, but our checklist that was approved by, or the matrix rather, approved by the board requires that a change in color or material type or both be approved by the board for a contributing property. And so we did not have any, the closest thing to an emergency procedure we have at staff is to allow the same roof type and the same roof color to be put back on in its place. With that said, the applicant would like to go with a hunter green metal roof to help improve one, water flow from the property, but also for durability purposes due to trees and things like that dropping onto dropping different material onto the roof. And with that said, staff would be available for any questions.
And are we also approving the ramp?
So the ramp was done as an administrative, so that was eligible for administrative approval.
Okay.
So that was approved and that administratively by Chairman Law and myself, and a lot of that had to do with the ability to manage circulation within the building, especially with COVID provisions in place.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to represent this application? State your name for the record, please.
Pardon?
State your name, please.
Stephen Enns, Stephen John Enns.
And what would you like to tell us about your application?
Well, I'll tell you that I really enjoy Aiken. I've lived in Aiken County now for 32 years, and I've actually practiced medicine in that residence, now in office, for 21 of those years. And I enjoy the Rose Hill plantation across the street. I still call it a plantation, and know the owners over there and my next door neighbor who has the, I will call it a maternal home, is the farmhouse on Barnwell in Greenville. And this is actually, I understand, a mother-in-law's quarters. It's a bungalow, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, kitchen and living room and other space. The porch was closed in a number of years before I purchased it, and that makes a perfect waiting room. I thank you for approving the ramp, because keeping patients socially distanced is much easier. I can bring folks into the waiting room. They can come back to my office. A new family can come into the waiting room, and my other family will walk out right past the office manager into the side door, and the ramp is in place. It looks much better than the steps, and it sort of covers the steps now, and I'm putting a stepping stones to the front parking pad. So my request for a roof I thought would be less of a concern, since it's a metal roof, aluminum, dark green, hunter green roof. It does go well with the old shutters that were there and the color of the door. I'm on Greenville Street. I have a green door, and I wish to have a green roof too. I don't plan to enjoy the sleeping under a tin roof when it rains, though my good neighbor next door is seeing that I spend late nights sometimes at the office getting paperwork done. But mostly for the aesthetic appeal, the durability of a tin roof, aluminum roof, maybe up to 40 or 50 years depending on the thickness. That I haven't determined yet, how thick maybe. But also for protection. The insurance rates are better. Obviously, this is an old roof, and has many places that have leaked over the years, and I've had an opportunity with extra funds to make something good of the roof and improve the quality of the home, the office. So simply put, rather than architectural shingles, the farmhouse that spawned this bungalow has architectural shingles. My neighbor is a great gentleman. He's done a lot of renovations there. He actually found me the roofers that will do this roof if approved. The other farmhouse, two-story next to me, has a more of a silver gray metal roof. It might have been one of the originals, or has been used until really the last year as a shelter for homeless mothers. And but no one has really been there for about a year and a half or so. So prior to COVID. But COVID started the process with the ramp, and I don't think I get any extra protection with a aluminum roof, but I believe it'll look much better. My next plan is to put a good fresh coat of paint and improve the street appearance.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Dr. Enns? Looks like there aren't any. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak about this application? Okay. To the board for a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept certificate application H21004 as submitted.
Second.
Discussion. Seems like a very appropriate roof for this building within the guidelines. Any other comments? Ready to vote? All in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. Mr. Secretary, the next application, please.
Next application is located at 836 Whiskey Road, better known as the Balcony. The subject property, constructed early century, approximately 1909, and by, I believe, Julian Peabody, I believe, was the architect on this one. The property right now is unpainted brick and has a slate roof. What the applicant is requesting, one, is to paint the brick an off-white color, which we have a sample of down here if you would like me to pass that around. And it's provided some evidence that the original design for the house was white at one point, and has expressed that you can sometimes, in certain cases, like behind light fixtures and things like that, still find some of the white paint remaining. I've not been out to personally verify that, but a second item involved is the roof. It currently is a slate roof, which is very heavy material, and kind of for one, durability purposes, but also for the long-term structural integrity of the home, the applicant is requesting to go back with a synthetic slate, which I have a material board down here before me. The roof line is essentially mostly what you can see from most of the public rights of way. It's got a wall around it, but it's funny, you can see most of the house from Magnolia, and I think from Knox, but due to the landscape architecture, which is also a known feature of the house, it is hidden in a number of places from view. What we passed out to you prior to this meeting that you did not have as part of the work session, this was an example of that given by the Da Vinci Roofscapes, which is the manufacturer, on their corporate website that Vice Chairman Knowles brought to our attention. Rutherford Hall is in New Jersey and is a nationally listed site, and due to similar reasons went through with a synthetic slate material on that. So at least for that site, they viewed that as following the National Department of Interior standards for rehabilitation. With all that said, I'd be glad to answer any questions from staff's point of view or bring the materials closer for your examination. And I think we have a representative of the applicant here.
Well, yeah, that would be nice to pass the materials around. And
It's not very heavy. I'll start over here, but and then you can kind of see the off-white color marked, but you wanted to, yeah, you probably.
Yeah, it's real.
my memory of it was sort of a cream color.
Yeah, so this, it's like a cream color.
Yeah.
It's one thing that we've kind of discussed with this board before is that we're kind of in a period of time where synthetic, the quality of synthetic materials come leaps and bounds when it comes to historic rehab of some of these properties. And so we anticipate seeing probably more cases like this as different things come forward. But this is definitely a first of this particular thing seen here in Aiken. I believe Charleston has been dealing with this issue for a few years now, and I think has approved several cases where a slate roof has been able to be replaced with the synthetic.
That's an interesting question. Is there someone here to represent the application? Would you come forward, please? State your name, please.
Yes, Chris Ravenel.
And would you tell us a little bit about your application?
Yes, ma'am. I'm the builder that's helping with the restoration of the house. I've been involved in two of these other houses in a different part of the state where it was a historic house and we had to replace similar issues where we had foundation and a concern on the structure. Ended up using the synthetic slate. A different product that does not exist today and was not quite as did not have as good of an appearance, but something similar. The house experienced a fire in 1930, I believe, and there's still quite a bit of damage up in the attic that we're going to be addressing. A lot of charred timbers, but overall, I mean, it needs some structural stability. Worried about the weight of that, and there's also been a lot of leaks in the roof because of the condition of the current slate roof, and there's a fair amount of mortar that needs to be repointed on the chimneys, causing problems as well. And that's added to the problems we're trying to address.
What is the life expectancy of this material? I know slate's it's infinitum.
So the roof, the roof that's on there now has been patched numerous times. There's a lot of photos that wear different color slates and 6-foot sections. But overall, probably 2/3 of the roof is original to the house. The Da Vinci, they do offer a lifetime warranty. I don't know that they officially know, but I would imagine it's a minimum of a 60, 70-year roof, but likely to be more than that.
So the color is, I was looking at it before I came here, is how does that compare with the color of the stables?
The stables just has a 3-tab
There you go.
shingle, I believe.
No, I'm talking about the paint color. Is it going to be pretty close to that or a different color?
On the facade,
Yeah. Mhm.
that is more of a yellowish color that's on the stables and the guest house in the back. And this one, the color that we're requesting is more of an off-white.
Well, certainly that was about the color it was when the Knoxes had it.
Yes, ma'am. There's definitely paint still on the house that around light fixtures and things that you can tell it is more of a creamy white.
And I'm sure if we had had a vote on whether or not they could take the paint off, we wouldn't have let them do it. That was not something that this board was asked about, I don't think. Questions or comments from Mr. Ravenel?
I like the idea of it being white,
Yeah.
so.
The little domes that you see across there, those air vents are just,
Those are actually windows that
Okay.
go into the attic.
okay.
They're covered in copper.
I asked you, they're gonna remain the same then, I'm sure.
They will remain the same. Or replaced in copper if that part is, I believe that will probably be replaced at the same time.
Gonna do that with the valleys as well? You're gonna have copper in the valleys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In the installation, is this, are they installed exactly like slate? I was at a work project recently where a homeowner in a very large home was redoing or had some work done on the slate, and they had to bring somebody in from Atlanta, and it's very hard to find people that can do it and do it right, and the materials is another issue too, so.
Yes, sir.
It's a good alternative for that, but are they
It is installed similarly. This particular company, they have a handful of people across the state between South Carolina and North Carolina that are what they consider master installers.
Right.
And we're certainly interviewing them, and we haven't narrowed down on a roofing contractor yet, but obviously looking to get approval first.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
The one thing that I think that maybe we had discussed but didn't get put in the staff report, just kind of for clarification, is that the shutters, I believe, are a dark green, almost not quite a Charleston green, but a very kind of a dark green. If you want to kind of put that in light of the off-white color.
I don't know that there's a decision yet from the decorator or
Okay.
the homeowner on that. The shutters are, if, they're mostly black, but they might have, they're more closer to a Charleston green
Right.
than what I understand is an Aiken green.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to describe, I guess, the current, it doesn't show up very well in pictures, but I think, it's somewhere between an Aiken green and a Charleston green, which is some shade of black that gets thrown in between the two. I'm not sure, as far as I can
It's
tell.
almost black.
Right, yeah. I don't know if there's going to be a change to that or not, and we obviously asked for permission at that point.
Any other questions, comments for Mr. Ravenel? Thank you, sir. So, Mr. Secretary, what's our jurisdiction over paint anyway? Thought that was,
Painting, so interestingly enough, staff wasn't quite sure how to treat this, because if you are restoring a historically established element, typically that doesn't require board review. However, the amount of time it has been since this has been painted is significant. So I think most people had viewed this house as being unpainted that are around today. With that said, we would normally require board approval for painting of unpainted brick.
okay, but it's the fact of painting versus the color.
That's right, yeah. The color, the color, I guess, comes into just, typically, you don't have to necessarily approve the color as long as it's part of our historic color palette. But this is, I think the intent in this case is to essentially kind of estab some originality to the design of the home.
And so Charleston has approved these synthetic slate roofs?
I don't think that they run into it a lot, but I believe that we've kind of looked into a couple of cases where and I think we found a case where Charleston did, but I know that there have been a couple other review boards that have allowed the slate as the synthetic slate. Again, it's a fairly new product, and it's as the applicant stated, has even kind of evolved over the last couple of years to improve in its appearance to mimic slate, at least from appearance purposes.
It does look good, doesn't it?
Is there anyone else here who would like to comment on this application? Okay. To the board for a motion.
All right. Madam Chairman, reference the application H21006. The application certainly seems like it fits within the design review manual, and I think the presentation has answered the questions, so I submit that we approve this request.
Second.
Discussion. Well, I have a little concern about the synthetic slate, but, and I know it's going to come, I mean, we are setting a precedent with this, but I think certainly the argument about the condition of the attic is convincing to me. So, any other? Okay, all in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. Mr. Secretary, our final application, please.
All right, our final application is, again, this has come to you a couple different times, but this is 339 Marion Street Southeast. Previously, the most recent the version of this that came to you, there was a sunroom expansion approved by the board to the, I guess, the south side, or sorry, I guess it would be the north side of the house, to the right side of the house. The applicants come back through with a request for, I guess, kind of more of a substantial expansion of that, so in such a way that it appears more of an extension of the house rather than kind of a sunroom appearance. Additionally, a bay window is being proposed on the left side of the house, which is currently, you can kind of see here, is just a smaller window configuration on that end.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to address the application? Please come forward and give us your name.
Carol Lynn Richards, the owner of the property. Nice to see you all again.
Nice to see you. What would you like to tell us about your application?
Initially, I was just looking to expand the sunroom, and then I was hoping to put an extension on the back. But financially, just and aesthetically, it seemed to make more sense just making the sunroom addition more substantial and an extension of the house and doing it all there instead of anything in the back. And then the windows on the left side, which is where the kitchen is, have to be altered to some extent because you can't fit the base cabinets in there with the way they position the windows, unless they're just half windows, which is what they are now, which kind of looks awkward. So I was going to, if I expand them, I have to move them over so that they're not in the way of the base cabinets in the kitchen. So then I was thinking, well, it'd be kind of aesthetically pretty to make it another bay window where we have the bay window on that garage conversion. That there should be some pictures in here of an almost finished garage conversion. Oh, there it is. I was wondering why everyone's looking over there. I'm like, I'm over here. By the way, inside is so adorable. It turned out really great. And then the side would be basically the same, except the two windows that are side by side, they would just be extended. So one would be on one side, one would be on the other end of that side, so it would be balanced. And still have the door there. And that's where the little window on the left is what I would like to, if nothing else, enlarge to match the others. But if I am, just like I said, if I just enlarge it, then I can't fit the kitchen cabinets against that wall. But if I can do the bay, I can kind of, well, I guess I could just move the windows over. So I'm happy with either way that you guys approve it.
So, questions or comments?
Sorry for my drawing.
We don't judge drawings.
The one thing I have on this picture, I showed 4 windows over there because I couldn't figure out how to redraw it with 3. But from a design point of view, you obviously always want to have the odd numbers, so that will be 3 that will be spaced evenly across there to make it look
I guess
proper.
that's where my question is, how far does this extension go towards
Right
being
now,
in
it's
front of the garage?
Right now, the extension is about 7.5 feet from the house, and I'd like to make it 15 feet. It ends up being about 3 feet from the edge of the driveway.
Okay.
And then would like to actually run that, I just had that wall put back in on that right side there. It had fallen down, I guess, years ago, so that's new, that wall right there and the column on the other side. And thinking probably run that down the side of the driveway to hit the house. I mean, not hit the house, but, to connect to the house. And then if you can see on some of the pictures from the other side of the house that we did repairs on because the roof was caving and leaking and everything, so they repaired that side. And that's kind of the similar pattern or similar design we'd like to use for the sunroom side. And keep going till you get to the,
I don't think I have that one in here. I think it looks like but that is in your packet.
yeah, you can see it's kind of like a reverse gable. We were thinking to do this, to match that on the other side where the sunroom is.
So the sunroom is currently got 2 windows, and you're going to add another one? I mean,
In the
like,
front, yes.
In the front, yeah, that's
Correct.
yep, okay.
Essentially, the concept that was approved at the last board meeting when this property was considered. However, I think once dimensions got put to it, it ended up being a bit larger, I think, than we originally discussed at the meeting, but it's kind of it's not significantly different in concept, it's just larger.
Yeah, and we'd like to bring the roof line up to meet the rest of the house rather than having it, it has to be completely torn out and redone anyway because it's in such disrepair and so much rot, all that wood has to come off regardless. So we thought we would go ahead and match it to the rest of it.
And the chimney stays in place?
Yes.
Questions? Hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess there's nobody here to speak, so it's to the board for
get any
discussion and a
email?
motion, or motion and discussion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve application H21-007 as submitted.
Second.
All right, hearing a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor? Unanimous, passes unanimously. Is there any further business to come before the board? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Third, favor?